Hey guys, it's Chris. I wanted to talk to you today. I got thinking about the post that John Harrison from Top Dog House in the UK made about a person who got a Bachelor of Science in canine behavior and training and only recommends purely positive training. And if there's any aversives at all, they recommend, and I'm paraphrasing here, that they put the dog down. And that's a big thing in the purely positive community. Well, the problem with purely positive is it's a belief. It's a belief that lies to you every time you try to apply it, and you have to ignore nature to accept the lie that you're telling to the dog, because dogs cannot lie, right? So it got me thinking of a saying that a belief is a poor substitute for experience. Now, let me tell you a story. I was walking yesterday with Ackright, and a lady had a shirt that said "Be Kind" on, and her daughter had a shirt that said "Joy" on it, and they had this little terrier mix that was trying to kill me. And she saw my shirt, and she said, "Well, do you have any tips for that?" I said, "Well, I don't know if a tip is going to fix this, but what have you been doing?" She said, "Well, I do purely positive." I said, "Well, how long have you been doing purely positive?" She said, 3 years. She's a rescue with a lot of trauma. What do you do? Well, when she doesn't respond well to people because she's aggressive, defensively aggressive, and she's bitten people, we were taught to avoid the situation. Meanwhile, the dog's trying to bite my leg. And I said, "Well, if you keep avoiding the situation, how are you going to ever teach the dog how to handle the situation?" And she said, "Well, we have treats and stuff, but when she's not responding to the treats, it's because she's in such a high level of drive." I said, "Yeah, I agree with that." I said, "So what does your trainer tell you to do?" "Well, you try to redirect with food, and you try to soothe, and then if that doesn't work, you leave the area." Okay, this is why purely positive creates more aggressive dogs than any other form of training. It creates monsters because it goes against the laws of nature. The laws of nature do not apply in purely positive. Purely positive is an idea from people who hug trees and are woke and don't want to do any harm to a dog, but don't realize they're doing more harm than anyone who uses corrections. Anyone who uses corrections. You're confusing the dog. You're rewarding it for poor behavior. You're soothing it. You're petting it for poor behavior. You're telling it it doesn't have to cope with life, and it never gets the skills to cope with life. Never. Because the life of a dog, just like the life of every other creature on the planet, is not purely positive. The negatives, the aversives, the limits are what keep you in charge of the dog, or what tell the dog, "You can calm down, bro. I got this. I don't need you to defend yourself. I'll defend you. But you need to learn how to act in this situation." And as brutal as that sounds to people who are woke and tree hugging and purely positive, it's the truth. And purely positive has created more monster dogs that are entitled, afraid, spoiled, territorial, and purely positive teaches the dog to tell the people what to do. You can get as mad as you want at me. You can get so upset about what I'm saying, but just think about it. Because people who really understand dogs, who have been at this for longer than any of these new age purely positive people, people who work their dogs, herding sheep or hunting or just having a pet like I do, we know that to keep the dog safe, we have to be in charge. Nature's black and white. It doesn't like purely positive. Nothing in life is purely positive. And if you try to treat an animal that's an opportunistic predator, and you try to teach that animal that life is purely positive and you're not going to hurt it, your heart is blinding your brain, because the dog is telling you that it's in the seventh circle of hell and you're feeding it cookies, soothing it, and walking away. There's no problem. There's no problem that gets solved when you have a negative behavior and you feed it, pet it, or remove yourself from the situation. You can't learn how to deal with that situation without a leader, not an abuser, a leader. Someone who says, that's enough. In my family, we don't do that. We don't do that. That's not how you go after this man. So she's standing there. She had the dog for years, but purely positive because she shouldn't have a dog because she doesn't understand the dog. But that information from the rescue, which said, here, rescue this dog. It's got some aggression issues. The dog's bit several people. Dog's trying to bite me. What did they do? Purely positive. What's the trainer she picked? Purely positive. She didn't pick the trainer for the dog. She picked the trainer for her. Purely positive is one of the most selfish, destructive, monster-creating methods of training a dog. Discuss.